Hello, I'm Shauna and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, NaNoWriMo is here and writers all over the world are getting their last minute preparations in before November starts. So what is NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. Throughout the month of November, writers all over the world try to write 50,000 words towards their current draft. In 2016, I participated in my first NaNoWriMo and I won. Since then, I've participated in a few of the camp NaNoWriMos that occur in April and July, also in the 2017 NaNoWriMo. Unfortunately, I did not hit my word goals for any of them. I didn't even come close most of the time. But in July of this year, I managed to hit my 30,000 word goal for my current work in progress. For this NaNoWriMo, I'm going to continue working on my science fiction crime series. This is what I was working on during Camp NaNoWriMo in July. Before I dive into what happened in July and since July for this current work in progress, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my series. So, my science fiction crime series has two components. There's the main series and then the prequel series. The prequel series focuses more on the science fiction side, and in the prequel series we follow a group of kids as they come to terms with their new reality and the new gifts that they have been given. Aside from that little bit of information, I can't really give you too much more as it is still in the very, very early stages. So between the prequel and the main series, I haven't completely decided on the time frame, but I know it's going to be something like 5 to 10 years between the ending of the prequel series and the start of the main series. So in the main series, it will be focusing more on the crime side. There will definitely still be science fiction elements to it, but we won't be seeing a lot of the kids from the prequel series. There will be a few, some of the main ones definitely, but not all of them. There will be a lot of new faces and stuff like that, but again, can't tell you too much more because early stages. I've decided to give my current work in progress a temporary title so that I don't have to keep referring to it as my science fiction crime series. I do have an actual title for it, but again, things may change between now and if and when it gets published. So I've decided to call my current work in progress Project Covert. So, my Camp NaNoWriMo experience from July. So my original plan going into Camp NaNoWriMo was to outline the entire prequel series and the start of the main series, as I wasn't sure how far that series, the main part, will go. So I consider myself a planner, or at least a plantser, which basically means I like to plan as much as possible, but sometimes I like to just dive in as well. So going into Camp NaNoWriMo, my plan was just to outline, and that was all I was going to do. I was going to get 30,000 words of just the outline. So the first few days, that was what I did. I just outlined. I wrote down plot points on bits of paper and moved them around on the ground so I could see the plot points and just spread them out physically to be able to figure out where I wanted them to be placed within the story. And during that process, I figured out what plot points I wanted to end a book on, a few books. So originally my plan was for the prequel to be 3-4 books, but then I realised there were a few more plot points that I figured would be really good places to end books at. And, well, I have 6 cliffhanger ideas for the prequel series, which was a lot more than I anticipated. And so I figured out what I wanted to happen in certain books, and I'd written all that down, and I'd started outlining. Originally, my outline just consisted of, I want this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, and it will happen in this book and that book. And then over the first few days of July, I added details to that and just started developing. But I quickly realised I wasn't adding any plot points or scenarios to the story itself. I was just developing more the things that I already knew I wanted to happen. and just reiterating them over and over again. And shortly after that, I realised I just wanted to start writing. I just wanted to dive in, explore the world, explore the characters more, and just get this draft underway. And that's what I did. So a few days into Camp NaNoWriMo, I changed my plan and I went from outlining to drafting. And I am so glad that I did that. I have found out so much about the characters and the story itself and come up with ideas and plot points that I don't think would have been possible if I didn't start drafting. So throughout July I managed to write 30,000 words towards my draft of the prequel series, which is amazing because I didn't think I was going to be able to get that much done, and I did. So something else about this series is that I have to know what happens in my books before I start writing, and considering that there is a prequel towards this main, I have to know as much information about the prequel before I move into the main, which is why I decided that I needed to outline completely this story. But now that I've started drafting the prequel, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to draft the entire prequel series before I can start the main, because I find that there will be scenarios and things within the prequel series that I'm definitely going to be having to refer to in the main series, especially considering that there is crime and sci-fi elements. I need to know what happens. And that's why I decided to just skip to it and draft the entire prequel. Well, that was the reason why I wanted to outline the entire prequel. So when I publish this series, my plan is to have the main series be published first, and then the prequel series. I'm not entirely sure if I want it to be after the main series is completely done or partway through. I want the prequel series to come out, but I'm not sure yet, and still in the early stages, so things could definitely change. So knowing everything about the prequel series was really important to me, especially considering that a lot of the information from the prequel series is very important and prominent for the main series. And so going into Camp NaNoWriMo, the plan was to figure out as much as possible about the prequel series, and drafting ended up being the best thing for me. So since July, I've barely touched Project Covert. I've done a little bit here and there, and at the moment it's the word count is just over 34,000 words, which isn't where I would have liked it to be by now. But when uni started back up, things got a little chaotic and crazy, so I just didn't get round to writing or doing much for it. But now that NaNoWriMo is here, I decided it's time to get back into it, especially as I only have a week left of uni and my assignments will be done. NaNoWriMo seemed like the perfect time. So now let's talk about NaNoWriMo and my plans for NaNoWriMo. So for NaNoWriMo, I definitely want to hit the 50,000 words towards Project Covert. I'm pretty confident that I can do it, as I have done it before, and I'm really passionate about this project. But there are a few things that I think are going to contribute into me not having, that are going to make it a little difficult, particularly at the start. So the start of November just happened to also be the last few weeks of university. So my final assignments are due the first weekend of November, and I have another one due in the first full week of November. But my plan is to get them done by the end of this week. But on top of that, I am also moving from my current place. So during the first week of November, I'm going to be moving back in with my mum for the uni break, and as she lives 17 hours away, I got to figure out a lot of stuff. Yeah, so the first week is going to be a little crazy, which isn't the best, considering that the first week is the best week to really get ahead and do a lot of work, because you know, the first week you're excited, you're all hyped up about NaNoWriMo and hitting that 50,000 words, and that's when you get a lot done. And then it drops off in week 2 and 3, and then week 4 is stressed and rushed. So it's going to be an interesting start this year, but I think I can do it as long as I stay on top of everything. I'm also planning on vlogging the entire experience as well, so that's going to be interesting. I've never done that before, but I want a reminder of the experience I had while writing this book. I want to look back and see where it all started and how exhausting it was to get this book done, and be able to say, I persevered and I did that. I wrote that book. If you want to hear more about my Camp NaNoWriMo experience and more about my story, I will be leaving the links down below to those blog posts. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!